Howdy folks, Jamboree here, and welcome to another episode of ToonPod. I know it's been a long time since the last episode of ToonPod, but that's because I have been so busy. I've been insanely busy. I've been to Alcon to do my panels, I've had to move flat, I've had to do so many different things. But now things are starting to settle down, and today's actually my birthday. Yeah, I'm 24 today. And I'm going to celebrate by spending the day with my friend Miranda and her baby daughter Evie. We're going to watch Harry Potter films. Then tonight, I'm having a bunch of friends over for a party. I've made a music playlist out of my favourite songs, and we're going to play Disney Trivial Pursuits. Yeah, so it's going to be a cool birthday. Right, let's get the show on the roll by talking about the cartoon series I've watched lately. Now, recently I finished watching Life with Louie, which is a cartoon about the fictionalized childhood of the comedian Louie Anderson. Now, I really enjoyed this show. I really got into it because it gave me this warm and fuzzy feeling. It's a very heartfelt series that captures the nostalgia of a particular era. I felt like it almost captured the innocence and naivety and charm of my own childhood. Even though it was set in the 1960s, it still resonated with me in that way. I totally recommend Life with Louie to anyone, seriously, it's totally worth watching. I think the only thing that will put people off will be the voice acting. You see, Louie Anderson himself provides two of the voices. He voices Little Louie, which is the child version of himself, and Louie Anderson's dad. Now, the voice for Little Louie is very dry, nuanced, and laid back. It may be a bit creepy to see this child version of Louie Anderson with a voice like that, but it works because Little Louie's sense of humor is kind of dry, so I think it suits it. And his voice for his dad is very screechy, loud, and obnoxious. But again, it works because Louie's dad is supposed to be very egocentric and arrogant and intentionally annoying. So, yeah, it suits it. It works, but I can imagine some people getting frustrated with the voices because they sound so weird or annoying. I've also been rewatching episodes of Dilbert. Yeah, I've seen it before, but I wanted to watch it again, and I still love it. I still think it's great. It's very weird. It's really weird. I know from the outside, people can perceive it as some kind of like boring office comedy, but it's actually very different to that. Yeah, it's very clever in the way that it satirizes office politics, but it's also incredibly imaginative and just weird. You may get the impression that the show is set in grounded reality, but as you get more into it, you then realise that logic has been thrown out the window, because it's a very nonsensical show. But it's also very creative, intelligent, and funny. So, those are the animated shows that I've watched recently. Let's move on to Trivia Time! Yep, it's time to talk about some animation facts. Let's begin. In the first draft of Disney's The Lion King, the story was going to be about the war between lions and baboons, and Rafiki was going to be a cheetah. Brain's voice in Pinky and the Brain was based on Orson Welles. Interestingly, Brain's voice actor, Maurice LaMarche, provided the voice of Orson Welles in the biopic drama Ed Wood. The animators for Kung Fu Panda actually took a 6-hour Kung Fu class so that they could create the martial arts sequences in the film. Despite many people's assumptions, The Nightmare Before Christmas was not directed by Tim Burton. It was actually directed by Henry Selick, who would go on to direct Coraline. So that's all the trivia I'm going to give in this episode, but in the next episode, I will provide more. Now, recently, in the middle of the summer, I conducted an animation quiz with the video game reviewer Guru Larry. I've kept the recording and I am now pleased to present you with Quizzing Guru Larry. So, joining us for a quiz is Guru Larry, a gentleman who is known for his YouTube series including Guru Reviews, Retro Corner, Movie Mistakes, and Games Yanks Can't Wank. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Hello there.
Hi. So, how are you lately?
I am not too bad. I must admit this hot weather is absolutely killing me.
I'm fed up of it. I really am.
I think I'm not going to be the first person to ever literally melt from this.
Do you prefer being boiling hot or freezing cold?
I prefer to be freezing cold, definitely, because it's a lot easier to keep warm when you're cold than it is to keep cool when you're hot.
Exactly.
You just can't do anything about it when you're hot.
No.
But you just
No.
put on a couple of extra jumpers when it's cold and that, or you just, you wrap yourself up in a nice duvet or something, or, and drink lots of warm drinks. But when it's hot, you just can't do anything. You just have to sit there and face it. You have to ponder.
Suffer.
Yeah. You spend the whole time pondering, should I buy an air conditioner? Should I buy an air conditioner? And then you think, well, it's really expensive and it only lasts 2 weeks, this hot weather. So do I fight through it? And by the time that you've made up the thing, it starts getting cooler. So
Exactly. It's getting really frustrating at my flat because, we don't have an air conditioning. And I would love to have one.
Yeah, well, it's just England after all. So
Exactly. And the thing is, I live with some students from China. And so they're used to the heat. And, there's just this pale Englishman complaining, going, oh! And they're like, it's fine. It's 30 degrees in China. Shut up.
Yeah, we just sort of seize up, don't we? Just collapse and go, oh, I don't want to work anymore. This is nothing.
Exactly. Now, you're about to do a quiz on animated movies and TV shows. Are you confident about this subject?
No. No.
So you don't think you'll do well?
No, I might do well. Depends on the era. If it's some sort of 80s cartoons and stuff like that, I may fare better.
We'll see. We'll see. Are you ready?
No. But do it anyway. Just get it over and done with. Spare me the pain. It's like being a dentist.
Question 1. In the cartoon series South Park, what is the name of the Canadian comedy duo renowned for their fart jokes?
I do actually know this. Oh God, Terrence and Phillip.
That is correct. Just go silent.
Is that? Oh, okay. Is that? Oh, sorry. Is that the end? Sorry.
It was like you were so shocked at your own answer. Well, actually, that was right.
Yes, I don't know. I haven't been seen South Park for ages.
Ready for question 2?
No. But do it anyway.
Question 2. Which Studio Ghibli movie features the voice of Christian Bale as a vain wizard?
Is it Howl's Moving Castle?
That is correct.
Ah.
Question 3. In Finding Nemo, what nickname is given to Nemo by the aquarium fish?
I don't know, is it Little One or something?
That is incorrect. The answer is Sharkbait.
Ah.
Question 4. In the Kung Fu Panda franchise, what animal is Poe's adoptive father?
It's a goose.
That is correct. Question 5. In the cartoon series King of the Hill, what is Hank Hill's job?
He's a seller of propane and propane accessories.
That is, and that's actually a good impression of Hank Hill.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just going to Elvis now.
Where did that come from? Yeah. It's turning to Boomhauer.
Next question. The character of Roger Rabbit was voiced by Tom Kenny. True or false?
True.
The answer is false. He was voiced by Charles Fleischer.
Ah.
Question 7. In the cartoon series Hey Arnold, what happened to Arnold's parents? A. They were killed in a car accident. B. They went missing in the jungle. C. They spontaneously combusted while reciting a satanic verse. D. They drowned in the ocean.
I'm going to say car crash.
That's incorrect. The answer was they went missing in the jungle.
I'm useless at Nickelodeon. I thought that was going to be the other Nickelodeon characters. The Wild Thornberrys.
All right.
For some reason, I don't know. I had that stuck in my head, so I thought that's a trick question for that.
No. Question 8. Hi everybody is a catchphrase from which animated sitcom character?
Dr. Nick Riviero.
That is correct. Question 9. Aladdin and the Emerald Temple is a straight-to-DVD Disney sequel. True or false?
False.
That is correct. It does not exist.
Ah.
Question 10. In the sci-fi comedy cartoon The Jetsons, what is the name of the family's dog?
Is it Rocket?
Incorrect. The answer is Astro.
Astro,
Question 11. The animated comedy film Megamind was produced by which major animation studio? Pixar or DreamWorks?
DreamWorks. Oh, thank you for telling me. Because I was going to be stumped then. I thought, oh, bloody hell.
That is correct. So, final question. Question 12. In the anime series Dragon Ball Z, what color does Goku's hair turn to when he becomes a Super Saiyan?
Yellow. Or is it sort of electric white or something?
I'll go with that. I put blonde, but I'll go with that.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready for your results?
No.
You scored 8 out of 12.
Oh, is that quite good? That's
I
over.
think that's quite good, actually. Yeah, that's quite an achievement.
It's over average, I suppose.
Yeah, I was as the quiz was going along, I was thinking, oh, he's doing pretty good.
Well, that's not too bad then.
Anyway, thank you for taking part in the quiz, Larry.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Now it's time for the final part of the show, an interview with someone from the animation industry. Joining me for this episode is Tony Siruno, a man who has served as a character designer for such animated titles as Megamind, Kung Fu Panda, The Croods, How to Train Your Dragon, The Simpsons, and much more. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Hey, thank you very much.
So, what kind of things have you been up to lately?
I've just been working pretty hard over at Sony Pictures Animation. I've been freelancing off and on for a few of my friends locally around Los Angeles. Raising my son, being a dad, being a husband.
So, is it difficult raising a family while being a professional character designer?
In the beginning, it's hard because, everything is new to you. My son just turned 2 a few months ago. It is getting easier, but at the same time, it is still tough. They have needs, they're kids, so, I tend to balance it pretty easily, I think, but it does get hard because when I have a deadline, and my son wants to play and hang out, I have to entertain him for the time being before I can, start any work. So it's hard. So normally my freelance time or my work time would be roughly between 11 p.m. till about 2 to 3 in the morning. So it's, working through the witching hour.
So, have you shown any of your films to your son?
I'm trying to think. He's seen Kung Fu Panda. He's seen How to Train Your Dragon. He's only 2, so, he'll watch anything.
Now, where did it all begin? What drew you into a career in designing animated characters?
Well, I got into animation when I was in college. I was always into art, but I was more into comic books and graphic novels. I went to an animation festival in 1991. I saw a movie called Akira, and it got me thinking. And that same week, there was an animation festival in Minneapolis, and I met Pete Docter, who's from my hometown, and I also met Dave Silverman, who would be the future supervising director of The Simpsons, and they both told me to go to Cal Arts. Went to Cal Arts for 3 years. In my second year, I worked as an animator on The Simpsons and a few commercials. And surprisingly, I applied to DreamWorks my last year at Cal Arts. I got in. They hired me as an animator, but I wanted to try other things, not just animation. I tried layout, storyboarding, visual development, character design, and for some odd reason, character design kind of stuck to me. And at that time, it was at DreamWorks on Prince of Egypt, and the 3 character designers at the studio at the time were Carter Goodrich, Nicola Marley, and Carlos Grangel, and I got to mentor with all 3 of them. And in the end, it was the department that kind of got me. I was always thinking I'd be an animator, and for some odd reason, those guys thought differently. So they kind of molded me into becoming a designer, and it kind of stuck since then.
So, what kind of things did your mentors teach you?
They're all different. Carter Goodrich, he came into character design as an illustrator, one of the best illustrators in the country. He kind of told me just to kind of be my own artist. But at the same time, when I worked with Nicola Marley and Carlos Grangel, they've been in animation for 5 years prior to me getting in, and they stressed versatility, professionalism, being able to hit your deadlines, and serving the client best you can. And kind of leaving your ego at the door and just doing what has to be done. Being a professional, first and foremost, actually.
So, out of everyone you've met in the animation industry, they've left the biggest impact?
Yeah, I'd say that in the beginning, yeah. I worked at DreamWorks for literally almost 18 years. In my first 2 years, it was rough training. There was probably 6 or 7 other people that wanted to be character designers wholeheartedly, and I was one of those guys that was kind of ho-hum about it, only because I was still interested in storyboarding And basically, it's the whole process of animation. Background painting kind of stuck to me, and also doing layout. But I would say in the end, their teachings, especially Carlos, who I really, really connected with, his teachings kind of still resonate with me. And it's the curriculum that he taught me that I teach to other people, more so than when I was with Nicola Marley. Nicola at the time didn't speak any English, so it was really, really hard to communicate my ideas. It was hard for him to communicate what he wanted me to try. But after a year, his English picked up, and most of the stuff that he taught me was coming also from Carlos. So, and 18 years later, I'm still using most of the stuff that they've taught me. But, keep in mind, over the last 18 years, actually 20 years, I've met so many amazing, talented designers in the industry that are just as good as them. And I've picked up a few things here and there about their approach and how they, get their stuff done and what their thought process is. So, over the years, I've met some amazing people, and I think they've kind of shaped me as well. But Carlos and Nico will always be my first two, I'd say my Yoda and my Ben Kenobi, so to speak.
So, have your mentors seen your current work, and what do they think of it? Do they like it?
Yeah, I mean, we've all kept in close contact, and I think in the beginning it was, literally in the beginning, they were pretty brutal. Every time I showed them a drawing, they thought it really sucked. Carlos and Nico would have me draw, 40 drawings of Egyptian, or not Egyptian, Hebrew slaves for Prince of Egypt. And I thought they were pretty good. And, Nico and Carlos would go through it like, they would flip through maybe half, and they may pull out one or two drawings and say, this is great, but the rest sucks. Go back and draw me another 40 more slaves. That went on, for, I'd say like almost 2 years. And then my trial by fire is when Carlos went back to Spain and Nicola Marley quit the studio for about a year. And I was the only guy left on Road to El Dorado. So I kind of had to helm the design. And I think after that, I kind of earned my stripes. But you can never tell, because it's like, when you get to that level, I think, being honest, but also being, you try to motivate each other. After a while, it's a bad drawing, but sometimes now that they're your colleague and you're kind of on an equal, I wouldn't say equal, but you guys are kind of like in the same position, and you can have critical criticism, but most of the time, I couldn't really tell you how they really feel. I mean, they would say, this is great, you've come a long way, but, after a while, they're like, yeah, it's great. Keep going. I'd be like, okay, so I guess it's good then, But, the thing is, I've looked at my work over the last, from my first day as a character designer till this day. When I look at how much has improved and what I've done and how many styles I've picked up and, kind of like my progress and where my journey has taken me, I would say, there's a few moments I have that I'd say were pretty brilliant, and I could pretty much say that my drawings or my designs were right up there with them. And even, Nico, who's one of the toughest critics, would always say, I've really appreciated, you helping me out in Dragons, because I like the way you approach design, and, over the years, you've just gotten better and better.
Well, that must have been flattering.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't tell, though, but he Nico's the kind of guy that won't hesitate to tell you if he doesn't like it either. He can, after many years, he'll be like, I didn't really prefer what you drew. It wasn't my favorite, but I preferred the other one. And he'd be like, okay, it's opinion. It's a professional opinion. You don't necessarily have to take it and, like, well, I got to improve that drawing. I'm like, okay, whatever.
So what do you personally think is the essence of a good character design?
A good character design? That's a good question, because, after all these years, I've worked for some crazy people, and you get a lot of direction from people that don't know anything about art or drawing. They're more or less business people, and they'll tell you what a successful design is. I don't know. In my opinion, I think a successful design is something that has great readability, simplistic design, yet carries a form of sophistication, as well as storytelling. But if I said that to a producer and executive, they'd probably just look at me with a blank stare. And they'd probably show me what is the latest and greatest thing happening on the internet, or, in America or whatever. It's a very, very two-sided coin when you do character design.
Okay, I see. Well, that's all we have time for, I'm afraid, Tony, but thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
As this episode draws to a close, I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, then click the like button. I've been Jamboree. Cheerio, folks.